For millions of years, hunters and gatherers relied on the wild plants and animals maintained by rainfall, which varied significantly from one place to another, but was on the whole deficient to provide food for large, dense, settled populations. Around 10,000 years ago, the structure and dynamics of human societies were radically transformed due to the development of food production in favorable habitats all around the world. Communities that settled along the banks of great rivers and those that had access to the abundant groundwater were faced with frequent food shortages, to which they responded with novel social mechanisms. Since then, the mutual relationships between water supply, cultivable land, food production, and social organization have led to significant transformations in the configurations and structural dynamics of human societies. In general, the management of water on both local and regional levels has undergone a series of historical transformations in association with significant developments in social organization. The world population rose rapidly after the arrival of industry in the 18th. Cities once inhabited by a few thousand people have spread and multiplied in number. The acceleration of the pace of industry and a new set of services have created a new demand for water that was once primarily allocated to agriculture and food production. This increasing demand for water has been matched by an attack on the purity of water resources caused by industrial and urban pollutants. Over the last 2 decades, the perception that water shortages pose a serious threat to humanity has triggered a prosperity of efforts by concerned individuals, scholars, organizations, and institutions. Water covers 70% of our planet, and it is so easy to think that it will always be plentiful. However, fresh water, the stuff we drink, bathe in, irrigate our farm fields with, is incredibly rare. Only 3% of the world's water is fresh water, and 2/3 of this water is stuck in frozen glaciers or otherwise unavailable for our use. As a result, some 1.1 billion people worldwide lack access to water, and a total of 2.7 billion suffer water scarce for at least 1 month of the year. Inadequate sanitation is also a problem. For 2.4 billion people, they are exposed to diseases such as cholera and typhoid fever, and other waterborne illnesses. 2 million people, mostly children, die each year from diseases alone. Many of the water systems that keep ecosystems prosperous and feed a growing human population have become stressed. Rivers, lakes, and aquifers are drying up or becoming too polluted to use. More than half of the world's wetlands have disappeared. Agriculture consumes more water than any other source. Climate change is altering the patterns of weather and water around the world, causing shortages and droughts in some areas and floods in others. These conditions also create the perfect breeding ground for wildfires, further fueling drought season and water stress. In the 2018 Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report, climate experts say that groundwater stored in aquifers, which provides 40% of the world's domestic water, is highly sensitive to the future climate change. They also concluded that wet regions are expected to get wetter, while dry regions will get drier. Contaminated and unsafe water is another contributing factor of the scarcity. Water pollution already kills more people each year than war and all other forms of violence combined. Water pollution can come from a number of sources, including drain and wastewater. More than 80% of the world's wastewater flows back into the environment without being treated. And agricultural and industrial runoff, where pesticides and toxic chemicals leach into the groundwater and nearby freshwater systems. Consequently, precious water resources get contaminated, resulting in less fresh water and drinking water available. Studies on climate change reveal that average annual precipitation will decrease by 20% in most parts of southern Europe. In addition, a stronger decrease is expected in summer, as summer precipitation is expected to decrease by 20 to 40% over a wide area covering southern and western Europe. In contrast, an annual increase of 10 to 30% is expected in most parts of Central, Eastern and Northern Europe. While the amount of rainfall can naturally vary between different regions and times of year, climate change and rising global temperatures are altering rainfall patterns, which in turn impact the quality and the spatial distribution of global water resources. Warmer temperatures mean that moisture in soil evaporates at faster rates, and more frequent and severe heat waves intensify drought conditions and contribute towards water shortages. One of the biggest effects of water shortage is that it prompts increased competition between water users, thus potentially sparking conflicts which could potentially put millions of lives at risk. For example, droughts in England are not simply a matter of a reduction in rainfall, but a complex phenomenon that has to do with leaking pipes, profits, privatization, car washing, green lawns, toilets and showers, and swimming pools, among all other things. In another example, conflict over water in the Nile Basin is an outcome of political suspicions precipitated from a colonial past, an explosion in population size and consumer demands, the economic concerns advocated by the World Bank, and a persisting mental structure that regards agriculture and self-sufficiency as self-evident categories of thought. In fact, many Egyptians are totally unaware that their historical views of the bounty of the Nile are hardly compatible with their current share of Nile water. The gap between the world's renewable supply of water and demand is expected to be 40% by 2030, bringing a new urgency to addressing water scarcity. 5 billion people, or around 2,000 of the world's population, will face at least 1 month of water shortages by 2050, according to the United Nations reports on how climate change is affecting the world's water resources. Already, a quarter of the world's population doesn't have access to safe drinking water, and nearly half of the population lacks sources for sanitation. In most regions, water scarcity means food scarcity, and at a time when droughts and flooding are increasing in frequency and severity. The growing water crisis is a humanitarian crisis, but it also has striking economic implications. According to World Bank's estimation, by 2050, water scarcity in some regions could impact GDP growth by up to 11.5%. While the situation seems terrible, there are many solutions that can begin to address global water scarcity. These include increasing awareness so we all understand the scope of the issue and potential solutions, such as investing in new technologies and methods to conserve and manage water, and motivating industry, government, and individuals to take collective action. Here are some of the ways we can make a difference. First, increase awareness and education about water scarcity. It's critical to generate awareness about the crisis and motivate people, businesses, and government agencies to take action. This includes educating people about the scope and the impact of water scarcity, how to conserve water, and how to support water organizations helping people to get access to clean water. Secondly, invest in innovative technologies. There are promising new technologies like wastewater recycling, energy-efficient desalination plants, solar and UV water filtration, nanofiltration, and rainwater harvesting systems that can help address water scarcity. The third and one of the most important solutions is to make agricultural irrigation more efficient. Almost 70% of our fresh water is used in agriculture. And reducing water pollution. Stopping industry and individuals from dumping toxic materials into our water supplies and being able to observe water quality are critical steps to improving access to clean water.